ॐ दक्षिणास्य समारम्भा शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमा अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ता स्मर्या गुरुपरम्परा श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। परिज्ञानाश्रम श्रीगुरुशङ्कर परिज्ञानाश्रम शङ्कर सद्गुरु केशववामन कृष्णपाण्डुरङ्ग आनन्द परिज्ञान गुरु सद्यो जात शङ्कर सद्गुरु गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। सर्ववेदान्तसिद्धान्त गोचरं तमगोचरं गोविन्दं परमानन्दं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्। Now we are almost coming to the end of the 108 selected verses we have taken up for the study of Vivekachudamani. Here now we are almost coming to the end of the lakshanas of a sthita prajna, of a jivan mukta. So here in the last few verses, last 7 or 8 verses, we saw that Bhagwan Shankaracharya is talking about a person who is a sthita prajna, who is a jivan mukta. A jivan mukta is the one who is free here and now and for whom this knowledge has become a reality. This knowledge, Aham Brahmasmi, is the absolute truth. He's having this, there is no wavering from this knowledge. He is absolutely abiding in this truth, which is the absolute truth, which is nothing but Aham Brahmasmi. He has very clearly realized, he has understood, not simply intellectually, but he has digested and he has assimilated the fact that he is not other than Brahman. I, Ditvam Padartha Swarupa, I, the Atma, I, this consciousness, I, this Sakshi Chaitanya Atma, is nothing other than that Brahman. This Atma Brahma Abheda. What is Brahman? It is the same consciousness which is behind all the other jivas, which is behind the entire universe. The entire universe, which is sustained by whatever principle, that tattvam or that sattvam of the entire universe is called as Brahman or Sat or Atma. And it is that very consciousness which is behind this body mind sense complex also. And I, this Atma, is not different from that Brahman. So when the teacher says Tat Brahma Tvam Atma Asi, Tat Brahma, Tat Tvam Asi means what? Tat Brahma Tvam Atma Asi. And how do I internalize this teaching? Whatever the teacher is saying, I take it as Aham Brahmasmi. I am Atma Brahma. This Atma, which is the content of this body mind sense complex, the consciousness behind this body mind sense complex is the same as the content or that which is the sattvam of every other jiva, of every other aspect of the world outside. The entire manifest world is standing or supported by whatever principle. That principle which is called as Brahman is none other than me. It is nothing other than me. This is the knowledge which is absolutely a conviction. It is not a mere knowledge which can be forgotten. It is a conviction. It is a strong abidance in this knowledge. And this knowledge is available spontaneously for this Sthita Prajna. The Sthita Prajna is living in the same universe as every one of us is living. He continues to have the same body, mind, sense complex as we all have. He continues to play the same roles that he was playing earlier also. Then what is the difference between a Sthita Prajna and me, Vasa Prajna and an Ajnani? What is the difference between a Jivan Mukta and an Ajnani? What is said here? The way he looks at himself, the way he looks at the world, his vision is completely different. It is merely a matter of vision. How I look at myself, how an Ajnani looks at himself and the world, and how a Jnani looks at himself and the world are exactly the opposite. And that is what the Shruti says. All of us are experiencing the same world outside. All of us are experiencing the same body, mind, sense complex, each one of us, our individual body, mind, sense complexes. But what is our vision about them? For me and Ajnani, the world is real. The body mind sense complex is real. But for a jnani, his vision has totally transformed. He understands that consciousness, which is all the time manifesting as ahamasmi, that consciousness, that witness consciousness, that Sakshi Chaitanya Atma is the real I. The body mind sense complex is mere anatma. The entire universe of names and forms is anatma. Therefore, the body mind sense complex is mithya. I, the Atma alone, is Satyam. The manifest Jagat with its various names and forms is Mithya, but the content or the Sattvam of this Jagat, which is Brahman, is the only Satyam. So Aham Satyam, Jagan Mithya, and I, the Jiva, is not in any way different from that Brahman. The content of this Jiva and the content of the entire universe, Brahman, is one and the same. And we saw a whole lot of verses, last 5, 6, or 7 verses, which talk about what Lord Krishna talks about in the Sthita Prajna section of the chapter 2, where he talks about Jaya, Apajaya do not mean anything to him, Mana, Apamana do not mean anything to him, Stuti and Ninda Tulyaha he is, and whatever Prapti, Aprapti does not make any difference. Prapti means getting. Ishta Anishta Prapti has no difference. He all considers that to be that which is happening and that which is going on in the world, and nothing really is Satyam. Whatever is happening, whatever is not happening, whatever I get, whatever I don't get, whatever Ninda I get, whatever Apamana, Mana, Puja, or torture, whatever I get from anybody else is nothing but Mithya. What is Satyam? I, the witness consciousness. That I which lights up all my experiences. I, the very consciousness which is the witness consciousness of all my experiences. That Atma I am. And therefore, in the last verse which we took in the last session, the 447th verse, he says that Yat Kritam Swapna Velayam Punyam Va Papam Ulbanam Suptothitasya Kim Tatsyat Swargaya Narakaya Va. Therefore, he talks here about the akartrutvam of a jnani. Abhoktritvam, akartritvam. He is an akarta. What is the karta here? The body, mind, sense complex is the karta. Who am I? I am the akarta atma, who really lights up all the activities of the body, mind, sense complex. I am the abhokta. Who is the bhokta? It is the ahankara who is the bhokta. Ahankara, the jiva is the karta. Ahankara, the jiva is the bhokta. But I, the atma, is neither the karta nor the bhokta. And the example given here is Yat Kritam Swapna Velayam. Whatever is done in the Swapna Vela, that is at the time of the dream, whatever is done, when I wake up, I, the waker, am not affected, not afflicted by whatever has happened in the dream. My actions in the dream don't determine whether I have gained papa or punya. My actions in the dream do not determine whether I go to Swarga or Naraka for my actions. Why? When I wake up, I understand that the entire dream was false. Whatever actions I did, activities I did in my dream, as a dreamer, were also false. Therefore, they have no relevance when I have woken up. Similarly, a jnani who has woken up to his highest reality, who has woken up to his Atma Swarupam, is not affected by whatever he has done in his Jagrat, in the world when he is awake. So this, see, earlier in the previous verses, he said the Sanchitam is completely gone. Sanchitam means what? That which is the accumulated karma or karma phala is completely gone, burnt away by this knowledge. It was what was said. Now, here in the next to this verse and the next two verses, here he talks about the Agami Karma of the Jnani. What is the meaning of Agami Karma? After the knowledge also, this Jnani continues to do actions. Though he is not the Karta, though he is not the Bhukta, his body, mind, sense complex continues to do all the actions. But these actions, these karmas done by a Jnani, do not incur any karma phala. Why? Because the jnani is not doing anything as an ahankara. The jnani is not doing anything as a jiva. There is no kartrutvam. When an ajnani does the action, he does it with the ahankara saying, I am the doer. Whereas an jnani, when he does his actions after jnanam, never says, I am the doer of the action. He never says that I am the experiencer of all the actions. That is not said. That is not the understanding. The jnani knows that all the actions are happening at the level of the anatma body, mind, sense complex. Gunaha guneshu vartante. Indriyani indriyartheshu vartante. Na aham kinchit karomi. I, the Atma, is neither the doer nor the enjoyer nor the experiencer. So, when any action is done with this understanding, such an action does not beget any karma. The example given is just like in the dream, whatever actions I do does not get or beget any karma phala. Similarly, whatever actions are done in this Vyavaharika Prapancha by the Jnani are as though done in the dream Prapancha, and therefore any karma that is done by the Jnani after Jnanam, which is called as Agami Karma, means what? That phalam which is going to come in future. Agami means that karma which I do now, which is going to get me the phalam in future. That is not going to happen. There is no agami karma phala for the jnani. That is what he said now. So uthitasya, for a person who has woken up, his actions done in dream cannot give rise to any kind of karma phala. Similarly, for a jnani, all the actions that he's done after that he does after the jnanam, they have no incurrence of karma phala. He does not get any karma phala because of that. And this particular thing, where a person is unaffected, where the jnani is unaffected by anything that he does, he is not affected by the karma, not affected by the bhoga, not affected by the karma phala. This is what is called as asangatvam. Asangatvam means what? There is no sangha. There is absolutely no connection between the jnani and the karma that he does. No connection between the phalam of the karma and what the jnani does. He does not accrue any karma phala for whatever actions he does. This is what is called as asangatvam, which is going to be the matter of discussion in the next two verses, which are the last two verses of the Sthita Prajna Lakshanas, after which the topic itself changes. So, here in the 448th verse, the next verse, he says, Swamasangamudasinam parignyaya nabho yatha न श्लिष्यते यतिः किञ्चित् कदाचित् भावि कर्मभिः. Bhavi karmabhihi means those actions that are going to be done in future by the jnani after he gets this jnanam, they are not going to affect him by karma phala. Na slishyate kinchit. That means he is not affected, not afflicted by the karma phala of whatever he is going to do in future. So, kadachit bhavi karma bhihi. Whatever karma this jnani, this Jivan Mukta does after the knowledge is not going to taint him. Na shlishyate means the karma or its phala is not going to na shlishyate. That means it is not going to affect him in any way. Why? Because he is the Asanga Atma. Since he is the Asanga Atma Swarupa, he is not the body, mind, sense complex. Therefore, whatever further future actions that are going to happen by this jnani, after the knowledge, they will happen merely as Ishvara's plan, as a part of prarabdha of the jnani's body, mind, sense complex. And those actions, the karmas or the karma phala, what is called as Agami Karma phala, are not going to affect this jnani. Na slishyate yatihi. This yatihi here means the Jivan Mukta, is not affected by bhavi karmabhihi kinchit kadachit. Never ever. Even an iota of karma done after jnanam is going to afflict this jnani at all. Why is it so? He gives an example here. That is the example of the asangatvam of space. He gives the example of space as to space is there everywhere. Whatever is happening in this world is happening in this space. Wars are fought in space, fires are happening in space, accidents are happening in space. Whatever is happening, it is happening in space. Why? Because the entire Jagat is in space. The entire space is in Atma, that is different. But space is there which is giving avakasha to the entire universe. All the activities that are happening in the world are happening in the space. Even then, the space does not get tainted by any action. A good action may be happening, good work may be happening, good karma may be happening in space. A murder may be taking place in space. A very, very bad karma may be happening, but space is not going to get affected. Why? Because space is asangam. It is so subtle, it is asangaha. It is asangaha and not going to get affected by whatever takes place in the space. Similarly, in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna gives another example for asangatvam, if you remember. One example is that of space. Yatha nabhaha, or yatha this particular space, akashaha na lipyate. Akashaha space, nabhaha means akashaha or space. Yatha akashaha na lipyate. Another example Bhagwan Krishna gives is yatha prakashaha na lipyate. Surya prakasha. The sunlight is lighting up everything. Good things, bad things, dirty things, clean things, everything that the sunlight is lighting up. It is falling on the dirtiest of the things in this world. The light is falling on the most sacred and the purest things in the world also. But is the sun going to be affected by what it lights up? Is the sunlight going to be afflicted by what it lights up? Forget about sunlight. Let us take our local lights, these lights. In this light, any karma may happen. A good karma like this, whatever sharing of the scriptures is going on, such a good karma may happen. Some bad karma may happen in this particular light also. But then the light is not going to get affected by whatever karma has happened because the light is asangaha. There is no sangha between what this light lights up and itself. Similarly, the space is also asangaha. Whatever happens in the space does not affect the space because of the very subtlety of the space being absolutely subtle, so subtle, of course, subtler than the space is Atma. But since the space is next subtlest thing to Atma, you will find that next means in the order of grossness. It is the next grosser thing to Atma. So because of Asangatvam, the space is not going to get afflicted. So he says here, Swam Asangam Udasinam Nabho Yatha. Nabhaha or Akasha is Udasina. Whatever is happening, the space is not bothered, worried, does not try to change anything that is happening within it, nor does it try to regret what is happening in it. The space is totally unaffected by the nature or type or whatever is the karma that is happening. The space is absolutely unaffected. And just like this space, just like Prakasha, light, a jnani also being the Atma Swarupa, Atma being Asangaha, Atma being Asangaha, this Atma is not affected by any action done by the body, mind, sense complex of the jnani. Then you may ask, the jnani can do anything and get away with it? A jnani cannot do anything wrong or adharmic, because a jnani is the one who has done enough of karma yoga, enough of upasana yoga, and he has gone through the scriptures. And a jnani is a person who is, by the side of Ishvara. Ishvara is by the side of Jnani. He is the Parabhakta. He is Ishvara himself. He is Sarvagnya Ishvara Jnani, and a Jnani can do no adharmic action. In the eyes of the world, sometimes whatever a Jnani does may look like as if it's not the right thing. It may look like that, but actually speaking, a Jnani who is a Sarvagnya, who is nothing but Ishvara, cannot do any kind of wrong or adharmic actions. Therefore, whatever actions the jnani does, even though sometimes, unintentionally some harm may happen to somebody because of the jnani, not intentionally, unintentionally, some things may go wrong. But does it mean that the effects of that karma come to the jnani? No, because he is not an intentional doer as an ahankara. He's not an ahankara. He's not having the jivatvam. He does not do anything by thinking that I, this Mr. So and so, is doing this work and I should get the results of this work. He does not think like that. He is Asanga Atma Swarupa. Atma being Asangaha, and this our jnani being Atmaswarupaha, Asangatvat. Because of Asangatvam, whatever action he will do in future, Bhavi Karma Bhihi, whatever actions he does in the future are not going to affect him. Therefore, we already saw that Sanchita karmas are totally destroyed. We saw that in the previous verses. All the accumulated karma phalas standing in the account of the jnani are completely destroyed by this jnanam. Agami karma phala or the future karma phala also does not get as accumulated or accrued to the jnani. Now we'll come to the last verse of the Sthita Prajna Lakshanas, the verse 449, where this example of Asangatvam is described further. Further description of this Asangatvam is given. न नभो घटयोगेन सुरागन्धेन लिप्यते तथात्मोपाधियोगेन तद्धर्मेणैव लिप्यते. Now let us say there are 4 or 5 pots. One is a clay pot, another is a glass pot, another is a silver pot, another one is a golden pot. Let us just imagine they're all there in space. Now, the clay pot also contains the same space, the glass pot also contains the same space, the silver pot also contains the same space, the golden pot also contains the same space. Does the space inside a clay pot become a clay space? Does it get the clayness of the clay of the pot? Does our space, the space inside the clay pot, does it get affected by the pot, the clay pot, clay of the pot? No. Does the space get more sacred because it is in a silver pot or in a golden pot? No. Does the space become silver Does it become a silver space because it is in the silver pot? No. Does the space become a golden space because it is in a golden pot? No. Does the space become a clay space because it is in a clay pot or a glass pot? No, it doesn't become. Therefore, this space is not affected by the upadhi. The clay pot is the upadhi of the space within the clay pot. Similarly, the space within the golden pot, the upadhi is the golden pot around it. Does the space get affected by the goldness of the golden pot or the clayness of the clay pot? No. Therefore, the space is not affected by the upadhi in which it is there. Upadhi means what? The surrounding, the whatever attributes are surrounding this space, it is not affected by that. Correct? So here he means this Atman, which is the content of this body mind sense complex, being asanga, is not affected by this upadhi. Whatever may be this body mind sense complex, it may be a sacred body, it may be a dirty body, it may be a diseased body, it may be a healthy body. The body and its dharmas are not going to affect the Atma, because the Atma is neither affected by the Upadhi nor by the dharmas or attributes of the Upadhi. Therefore, the space inside a clay pot does not become low because it is in a clay pot, nor does the space in a golden pot become sacred because it is within a golden pot. So, what is the meaning of that? That means space is asangaha. Space is not affected by what it is surrounded by. The upadhi is not affecting the content space. At the same time, the dharmas of the upadhi, the clay pot may be a small pot. The golden pot may be a bigger pot. The silver pot may be much bigger pot. Does it make the space small or bigger or big? No. The dharmas or the attributes of the upadhi do not affect the space. Similarly, the Atma is not affected by the upadhi that is there, nor is it affected by the attributes of the upadhi. That means this Atma is neither affected by this body nor whatever kind of this body it is. There may be this may be a beautiful body, this may be a very ugly body. Atma does not become beautiful or ugly. This may be a diseased body, this may be a healthy body. The Atma does not become healthy or diseased by its contact with this body, because really speaking, there is no contact. It is asangaha. Asanga means what? Where there is really no contact between the two things, it is asangaha. If space can be asangaha, what about Atma? That is what is discussed in the next verse here, where he says, Na nabho ghata yogena suragandhena lipyate. So, the space within a pot is neither affected by the material with which the pot is made, nor is it affected by the contents of the pot. Now, this pot may be having suragandhena. This pot may be smelling very badly because this pot may be containing some liquor in it, suragandhena. The pot is smelling of liquor because the pot has liquor in it. But then, does the space in the pot smell of suragandha? It does not smell. Is it affected by the clay of the pot? It is not affected by the clay of the pot. Therefore, he says, just like the space is not affected by the upadhi surrounding it, or by the gunas of the upadhi surrounding it, similarly, the Atma, this consciousness, with respect to this body mind sense complex, is not affected by the body which surrounds it. The Atma is the content and the body is the container. Therefore, the container body mind sense complex or the gunas of this body mind sense complex do not affect me, the consciousness or the Atma. Therefore, Whatever action is done by the body mind sense complex is done by the body mind sense complex. If the pot moves from one place to the other, the space does not move from one place to the other. It is only a feeling we have that the space in the pot also moves, but the space is already there, it is there. Similarly, here, because of being Asangaha, this Atma, who is nothing but this Jnani who knows he is Atma, is not affected by either what the Upadhi does. All the karmas are done by the Upadhi, isn't it? The karmas or the actions are done by the Upadhi, body, mind, sense complex. The phala is for whom? The karma phala is for the body, mind, sense complex. But the jnani knows very well I am not the body, mind, sense complex. I am not the doer. I am not the enjoyer. I am that consciousness which lights up the anatma, which lights up all the actions done by the anatma, which lights up the vyavaharas done by the anatma. But being asangaha, I am not affected. I am not afflicted either by the body or its content. So, na nabho ghatayogena suragandhena lipyate. The pot space is neither affected by the clay with the material with which it is made, nor whatever the fulfillment with the upadhi or its dharmas are not affected. This consciousness is not affected by what the upadhi does or its dharmas or its attributes. So, with this, we have seen the various lakshanas of the sthita prajna or a jivan mukta were talked about, and in the last three or four verses we saw that this jnani is free from sanchita karma and agami karma. Now in the next topic, Bhagwan Shankaracharya then asks, what about the prarabdha karma for the jnani? At this point, let us just take it aside and discuss about what different kinds of karma phalas are. We know one thing, that whenever any action happens, there is a reaction. Whenever a karma is done by any jiva, there is a reaction called as karma phala. All the karmas, every karma, each and every karma that is done by every jiva comes back modified as karma phala. Now, our scriptures divide this karma and karma phala into three types. What it says is, now I am born here, now I am doing, various karmas. There are many things that I have to do in this life. And as said, there are a lot of karmas that are pending in my account because I have been coming back again and again and again into this life as a jiva. Maybe this body I didn't have in my last life. Which body I had, I don't know. Whether I had the body of an animal or a plant or a deva or in which loka I was, I do not know. But the fact remains that I have come back here. Therefore, I definitely had previous births. And in every birth, the jiva, the body mind sense complex, does various karmas. There may be laukika karmas and there may be, Vaidika karmas. As a human being, I may do normal worldly actions, Vyavaharika karmas, or scripturally enjoined activities called as the Vaidika karma. So, whatever I do in every life, every action accrues a particular phala for me. But now I am born with a certain set of karmas which have fructified, which have given me this life from my entire account of Sanchita karmas. All these lives, I have not been able to, every life I cannot fulfill all the karma. Like, for example, if I have done 100 karmas in this life, I cannot go through the 100 karma phalas in this life only. It is not possible. Where 100, I am doing millions of karmas in every life. So, millions of those karmas cannot give rise to karma phala in this life. So, what happens? Some of them I enjoy, some of them I go through, I work out some of the karmas, but a large number of karmas in this life remain in my account. Like that, for the last so many millions of janmas, so many karma phalas have remained in my account. And in every life, I only exhaust a small amount of karmas in the form of karma phala. What happens to all the unworked out karmas, karma phalas? They all remain in my account, in my bank account of karma. That is called as the sanchita karma. That means I have already done those karmas. I have already earned the phala for those karmas, but those karma phalas have not yet fructified because they have not yet got a chance to fructify. Therefore, they're all remaining in my account. That huge bag or that huge bale of karma phalas, which is remaining in my account, that is called as Sanchita Karma. And it is said that with this knowledge, all that accumulated karma, as I discussed in the last session also, jnanagni sarva karmani, dagdham karoti. This jnanam, sarva karmani, all the karmas are burnt away by this knowledge. And that's what was said. This particular jnani, all his karmas are burnt away. But all of us are not jnanis. 99.99% of us remain ajnanis, die ajnanis, come back in another body as ajnanis. And when we come back, what happens? A part of those sanchita karmas get ready to fructify in this life. When I'm born with this body, in a particular place, in a particular time span, with a particular set of people around me, I am only working out certain karmas out of my Sanchita karma. It is like withdrawing. I have 1 lakh rupee in my account. I withdraw 10,000 rupees for my expense this time. And it goes on for the next few days or few weeks. After that, I again go when it is empty, when my karmas are over, and when my money is over, I go and withdraw the money again from the bank. Similarly, in this life, I have withdrawn a part of my Sanchita karma which has appeared with this body mind sense complex as prarabdha karmas. So, this prarabdha karma is the blueprint of my life. This is the blueprint of my life because Ishvara, Karma Phaladata, has the plan that this jiva in this body mind sense complex has to work out this so many karma phalas of my previous pending karmas. This small bit of Sanchita Karma which I have come with in this life to work out, it is called as Prarabdha Karma. Prarabdha means Arabdha. This set of karmas which have begun with this life. With this life in this body, a small portion of that Sanchita Karma group or that account, I have come with a small portion of it, and in this entire life, I am going to work out those Prarabdha Karmas. But when I am working out those Prarabdha Karmas, I am creating new karmas also for myself. In this life, I am not going to simply work out the Prarabdha Karmas and go away. I become a doer, I become a karta, I become a bhokta. And as I'm working out the prarabdha, I'm accumulating newer karmas. I'm doing newer karmas. I'm accumulating more and more karma phalas. And some of those karma phalas may fructify in this life as agami karmas. I'm born with a set of karmas, they're called as prarabdha karmas. In this life, I do some new karmas, and some of the karma phalas of what I have done in this life, I may experience them in this life itself. But so many karmas that I have done in this life, it is not possible for me to experience all the agamic karma phalas in this life itself. Therefore, what happens when this body dies? When the prarabdha with which this body came dies, the remaining agami karmas, the remaining karma phalas of the agami karma which I have done in this life, go back into my account of Sanchita karma. It is like I have withdrawn some money, but I get deposited, some more money gets deposited from my pension account or from my some other account. From 1 lakh, I withdrew 10,000 for this week's expenses. But then some other money got deposited in my account. So by the time I finish my this thing, when I go back, maybe there is 1,15,000. So like this, there are three sets of karmas. what are called as the Sanchita karmas, which are there, long standing karmas which are there, standing in my account. Prarabdha karmas, a small set of those Sanchita karmas which I am born with in this life to work out. And then there are new karmas I am adding in this life because of my kartritvam and bhoktritvam, which are called as Agami Karmas. Therefore, this whole samsara of mine is nothing but working out Sanchita Karma, Prarabdha Karma, Agami Karma. Every jiva comes back again and again in various spheres, in various fields of experience, various lokas. Why? To work out the karma phalas. The very purpose of Jiva's birth is to work out the karma phalas. And it is this never ending karma phalas of millions of jivas which keeps the samsara going, which keeps the creation going. Millions and millions and millions of years of Srishti going on. What keeps it going? What is the fuel for this whole Srishti to go on again and again? What is the fuel that makes this jiva comes back again and again and again in different body, mind, sense complexes? The fuel is the karma. So the karma acts as the fuel which continues to actually push this engine of the whole world and of all the jivas. So these three types of karmas, all of us are born with. And it is the same three type of karmas which even a jnani is born with. When he is born, he is not a jnani. So when a jnani is born, he also is born with a part of the Sanchita karma. Still, there is a lot of Sanchita karma pending, remaining in his kitty, a huge kitty remaining there. But because of the grace of the Guru and grace of Ishvara and whatever is his Purva preparation for this knowledge for so many lives, in this life, this person gets this knowledge, abides in this knowledge, becomes a Jivan Mukta. When he becomes a Jivan Mukta, this knowledge itself has completely destroyed his Sanchita karma. And in the previous two verses, we saw that because of Asangatvam, whatever actions he does in this life, in the remaining life of his, they are not going to accrue to him, so there is no Agami Karma. So a jnani has in one stroke dealt with the entire Sanchita Karma and Agami Karma. Now, what happens to the Prarabdha Karma of the jnani? Is Prarabdha Karma there for the jnani or not there for the jnani? If the Prarabdha Karma also disappeared immediately after knowledge, a jnani would fall dead because it is the end of the Prarabdha which ends the life of a jiva. Prarabdha oil is the oil which keeps the flame of the jiva alive. That's what is said in Mahabharata. That's what is said in Bhagavad Gita also. Therefore, it is the prarabdha which keeps this life going. If the jnani has destroyed his prarabdha karma also by this knowledge, then the jnani should fall dead. There'll be no jnanis in this world. There'll be no teachers in this world. There'll be no example to show that Jivan Mukti is possible. There'll be no examples for the Shruti to show that it is possible to be free here and now. Jivan Mukti is that will not be there. Therefore, what is said is that prarabdha persists for a jnani. It is not his prarabdha, but the prarabdha with which this body mind sense complex came alive. The very prarabdha because of which this body mind sense complex came alive. That prarabdha continues to be there, and that prarabdha works out regards to his body mind sense complex, and then once it has finished its work, it disappears. That is what is said. But then Shankaracharya here discusses various points of view regarding prarabdha for a jnani. What happens to the prarabdha of a jnani? He is born with a certain set of karma phalas, with a certain set of karma to work out in this life. but he has got at the age of say 40 or 50, he is, he has realized this higher nature, he has woken up to his higher nature, he is a sthita prajna now. Maybe he is going to live for another 20 years as a jnani. So what has happened to his prarabdha? That is what is going to be discussed in these verses, in the next 2 or 3 verses, where Shankaracharya discusses different points of view of what really happens to the prarabdha. Shruti itself discusses from different viewpoints about the prarabdha of a jnani. Shruti itself, the Upanishads, the Shastra itself discusses it from different viewpoints. So let us go to the 450th verse. 450th verse, where the prarabdha of a Jivan Mukta is discussed. So what does he say here? Jnanodayat purarabdham karma jnananna nashyati udatva swaphalam lakshyam uddishyot So what is the meaning of that? This now he says that Bhagwan Shankaracharya says, Jnanodayat pura arabdham karma. Before the Jnanodaya took place, before the Jnana took place, before he started abiding in this knowledge, when he realized Aham Brahmasmi, when the person very clearly understood Aham Satyam Jagan Mithya Jivo Brahmaiva Napara, when it was clearly understood, before that, whatever prarabdha brought the body mind sense complex of a jnani into this world, this particular prarabdha karma jnanat na nashyati, because it is a momentum with which he is born. This prarabdha karma has already started. The momentum has already started. The prarabdha karma cannot come to a standstill immediately. It cannot come to a standstill. So jnanat na nashyati. Udatva swaphalam lakshyam uddishya utsrishta banavat. Supposing you have released an arrow from the bow. Supposing you have released an arrow from the bow. Now you cannot stop the arrow once it has been released. Supposing, a hunter thinks that there is a wild animal or a mriga and releases his arrow. After the arrow is released, this hunter realizes that it's not a wild animal, it's not a mriga, but it is a cow. Can he do anything about it? He cannot do anything about it because the karma has already started. The bana or the arrow is already released. With the force of the arrow, wherever it has to go, with whatever force it has to go, the arrow will go there. Whether there is a mriga there or not there, whether cow is there or not there, whatever is there, whatever is not there, this arrow which is released will reach its destination. Similarly, the arrow released by Ishvara in the form of prarabdha karma, karma phaladata, your karma, your sanchita karma is the bow for Ishvara, and the karma that you are going to experience and work out in this life, the prarabdha karma, is like an arrow for karma phaladata Ishvara. So whatever arrow has been released by Ishvara in the form of whatever prarabdha karma one has to face with the body being born, at the time of the body being born, whatever karma I came with, it is like a released arrow. And whatever I am doing now to work out the prarabdha, I am working out the momentum. Let us give an example. When the fan is moving, I switch off the fan doesn't stop suddenly because the momentum of movement is there and the fan takes some time for it to stop. Correct? Similarly, the momentum of the prarabdha has already started, like an arrow which has been released. A released arrow, till it finishes its momentum, till it reaches its goal or loses its momentum, it will not fall. The arrow will fall either when it reaches its goal or when the momentum is lost because of something else. Some other thing because of which the momentum of the arrow is lost for whatever reason, then the arrow may fall. Similarly, here, what is said by the Shruti is a jnani before jnanam was already born with this body, with a set of prarabdha karmas, and the momentum of prarabdha is going on, and he has reached this, this moksha, or he has attained moksha. That does not stop the momentum of prarabdha. The momentum of prarabdha jnanat na nashyati. He said, sanchita karma jnanat nashyati. Agami karma api jnanat nashyati. Agami karma does not accumulate at all, karma phala. Whereas prarabdha karma, which has already started its momentum, jnanat na nashyati, uddishya utsrishta banavat, just like a released arrow will not stop in the middle unless its momentum is disturbed. Similarly, Ishvara has released the arrow of prarabdha karma to this jiva as the karma phala data, as the giver of the karma phalas. This arrow released by Ishvara cannot stop unless the prarabdha works out. Therefore, it is said that the jnani's body also has to grow through its prarabdha. Now, it is no longer jnani's prarabdha. And jnani never says it is my prarabdha. Now, supposing I fall sick, what do I say? It is my prarabdha. What to do? I am born with this prarabdha. It is my prarabdha. I have to suffer this ailment. This is what an ajnani says. But what does a jnani say? He says it is the prarabdha of this body. Incidentally, this body is associated with, I'm incidentally, this body is me. Incidentally, I'm not this body, but incidentally, this body is associated with me. This prarabdha is related to this body. This prarabdha is not related to I, the Atma. This prarabdha has nothing to do with the Atma. Let the body go through its prarabdha and let it go. That's why we see in the lives of so many jnanis, they have had to suffer physical ailments. We know of Ramana Maharishi, who suffered sarcoma of the hand. We have known so many other, people, jnanis, who have suffered bodily because the prarabdha which has afflicted the body, with the prarabdha with which they have come, which is going to afflict the body, that is not going to come down. A particular jnani may be bedridden. A jnani can go, but he's bedridden. That is the prarabdha of that particular body, and therefore the body has its prarabdha. A jnani's body is going to work out that prarabdha. Therefore, from the point of view of the body mind sense complex, a jnani's prarabdha continues. But from the point of Atma, what does the jnani say? It is not my prarabdha. I have nothing to do with prarabdha. So if anybody asks me a question, does a jnani have prarabdha or no? I should not answer that question. I should say, from which point of view are you asking this question? Is the prarabdha for a jnani asked from the point of view of his body, or is it from the point of view of Atma? Now, from the point of view of the body mind sense complex, a jnani's body mind sense complex also will go through the prarabdha. Therefore, it is right to say that the jnani also has to work out its prarabdha. At the same time, the jnani himself understands that I am not the body mind sense complex. The prarabdha is the attribute of the body mind sense complex. The prarabdha attributes the body mind sense complex and not me. Therefore, it is not my prarabdha. Both ways the Shruti talks about. Therefore, our scriptures say a jnani has prarabdha, and scriptures also say, certain scriptures say the jnani has no prarabdha. From the point of view of Atma, actually speaking, all of us, none of us have any prarabdha, but because I'm entangled with this body mind sense complex, attached to this body mind sense complex, thinking of myself as this body mind sense complex, I say I have this prarabdha. But a jnani never says that he has that prarabdha. Therefore, jnanodayat pura arabdham karma jnanaya jnanat na nashyati. Udatva svaphalam laksham. It goes towards its swalakshya. Prarabdha moves or takes the body, mind, sense complex of the jnani also towards its final goal, like an arrow which does not stop in the middle. An arrow goes through its entire momentum. Therefore, he says that, this kind of a, because of this reasoning, Shruti also says that a jnani's prarabdha is not lost. That is why a jnani's body, mind, sense complex are intact for some years after that. He does not fall dead immediately. Prarabdha is not gone. His body, mind, sense complex has to go through whatever it has to go through: painful situations, good situations, happy situations, unhappy situations. But he doesn't take anything to be my happy situations, my unhappy situations. So, in the next verse, in the 451st verse, the same example is explained in a little detailed way. What does he say? व्याघ्रबुद्ध्या विनिर्मुक्तः बाणः पश्चात्तु गोमतौ न तिष्ठति छिन्नत्येव लक्ष्यं वेगेन निर्भरम्. Same thing as I explained. A hunter has released an arrow thinking that it is a tiger. Of course, now we don't, sort of condone anybody hunting or killing as hunting. It is stopped. But then, those days, it was known that people would go hunting and kill the wild animals, or this, that was known. So he says, Vyagra buddhya vinirmuktaha banaha. A particular hunter has released his arrow from the bow, thinking that he has seen a Vyagra, he has seen a wild animal. Paschat to go matao. After releasing the arrow, he finds out that it is not the tiger that he saw, it is something else. Na tishtati chinnati eva. But by my knowing, by the hunter's knowing, the arrow is not going to stop. Hunter cannot say stop and stop the arrow. Chinnati eva lakshyam vegena. With its momentum, vegena. Chinnati eva lakshyam. Its lakshyam, it will go and attack. It will go and fall on its lakshyam itself. Therefore, it is bound to happen like that. Na tishtati chinnatyeva laksham vegena nirbharam. Vegena nirbharam. That's why it is said that once, we have released a karma, once we have done a karma, then we have no way of stopping the effects or karma phala. It is like releasing an arrow. So I have to be very careful as an Ajnani. I have to be very careful about what karma I am doing, how I am doing. So he says, Vyagra Buddhivat, by getting this, by knowing this, I'm not going to do anything. It is not going to stop. Similarly, here, the example of the Utsrishta Bana, a released arrow, has been explained here in detail. So this is one of the contentions, one of the ideas that Shruti gives about the prarabdha of a jnani. What are the other ideas that is going to be talked about in the future verses, which we'll see in the next session? Nandantu sadhaka sarve vinashyantu vidushakaha avastha shambhavi mestu prasannostu gurus sada सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखमाप्नुयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ तत्सत्